Hello, my name is Fenna. Welcome to Following Fenna. I am a certified coach and counselor, and I work with people in a Limerence episode and also with their partner. Now, why do people with a borderline personality disorder tend to be more vulnerable for limerence, meaning the obsessive love we can feel for someone? And why do limerent people often fall for somebody with a borderline personality disorder? What's the attraction between these two? I'm going to explain to you all this in the next video. Let me first give you a definition of limerence. Basically, limerence is an addiction to another person. And it shows up as a temporary, intense, obsessive infatuation to one person. And it involves idolization. We idolize the object of our affection, and we have this strong desire for reciprocity, and we feel emotional dependency. People in a state of limerence experience unwanted, intrusive thoughts which they cannot stop. We feel heightened emotional responses to any interaction or lack of interaction, and a strong longing for an emotional bond or connection. And the main ingredients for limerence are obstacles, limited access, and hope. We cannot form a safe, defined pair with this person, and then we can enter a limerent episode. Now, a borderline personality disorder, or BPD, is a mental health disorder that involves pervasive patterns of instability. And I mean instability in relationships, but also in self-image and in their emotions. And people with BPD can experience overwhelming emotions, which they tend to regulate with addictions. They can have mood swings, engaging in self-destructive behavior. They can numb themselves not to feel so much, and often there is an underlying chronic fear of abandonment. Now, before I get into why there can be overlap or what is the connection and why these attract each other, I want to make it very clear that limerence and borderline personality disorder are two completely different things. Limerence is an altered state, while borderline is a personality disorder and a DSM-5, meaning psychiatric diagnosis, while limerence is temporary if you cut the contact with the other person. When you cut the contact with the other person, you get out of the limerence, and borderline is not so temporary. We might show at one point the same symptoms, such as mood swings and fear of abandonment and low self-esteem. But even though at one point we show the same symptoms, limerence and borderline are not the same. People with borderline can experience limerence during their life, but having limerence does not make you someone with BPD. The symptoms had to be there before the beginning of the limerent episode. Okay, but why do people with BPD tend to get limerent, tend to get obsessively in love, and why do limerents fall for the BPD? Well, both are rooted in attachment wounds, and attachment wounds attract attachment wounds. We limerents, we have attachment wounds caused by maybe our own trauma or trauma in our family structure, meaning in our family history. And so does the limerent object, so does the person we get obsessed about. People with BPD might have their own trauma, or they were born with a lot of temperament, which was not giving the right response by their caregivers. So the mix of emotions were not channeled, were not lead in the right way which also can lead to attachment wounds. Now, there are theories that state that subconsciously we always look for familiarity because it just takes less effort, mental effort, to process the interaction when there's an encountering with a person that somewhere is familiar. Our brain loves shortcuts. Or we can even seek subconsciously a do-over when our needs were not being met one way or another in our childhood. We subconsciously seek kind of the same person or kind of the same conditions to have them met now. If I can get this person who kind of resembles my mother in some aspects to accept me, I will be okay. I can heal something. So the attraction between attachment wounds could be one of the reasons. Now, there's another reason. People with BPD tend to be more unpredictable in their emotions and how they react to their emotions, and so in their behavior. And nothing can kickstart an addiction more than unpredictability. So if you are vulnerable for limerence and you meet someone with unpredictable behavior, you are more at risk to enter a limerent episode due to the rewards on the unpredictable scale, which causes repetition of behavior. I always say this, which is the dynamic in any addiction. Also, the pushing and pulling in the relationship dynamic that people with BPD tend to do play with our hormones and we get dysregulated. And once we are dysregulated, we need the other person for their contact and their approval in order to regulate again. Another reason. Heavy emotions displayed by the person with BPD can create a need for savior. Especially the men I talk to describe a damsel in distress situation with their limerent object, their LO. The LO is often more vulnerable, for example, socially, and it releases a savior instinct. Especially when you had a parent that needed your help, and helping is hardwired in your coping system in order to keep your surroundings safe and predictable. Another reason will be the fast, strong, oversharing bond. Limerents tend to overshare, and people with borderline can go from a 0 to 100. And the heavy emotions/hormones can create the illusion of having this special bond. The word soulmate will be used every now and then, even when we don't know the other person that well yet. There's also fear of abandonment. People with BPD and limerence both are afraid of rejection and abandonment. So here we have two people who can't really walk away. Well, they can. Of course you can, but it takes a lot of effort. They both have highly sensitive, hyper-aroused nervous system running the show, using the other to regulate their system. Now, people with borderline are more vulnerable for addictions. And limerence, above all, is an addiction like any other. We use it for self-regulation, numbing, suppressing feelings we don't want to feel. Or maybe we're not even that aware of yet. I've also heard people with BPD state that the idealization of another person, almost sucking up their personality as a compensation to the lack of the sense of self. So filling the void of feeling empty or the lack of sense of self can be a reason why people with BPD tend to become limerent. So there is overlap. There are reasons why people with BPD become limerent and why people vulnerable for limerence tend to become limerent for somebody with BPD. Now, being in a state of limerence dysregulates you. And being dysregulated over a long period of time is not healthy. It's not good for your body. It's also not good for your mental health, for your sanity. The way out of limerence is to cut the contact with this person. And that goes for everyone in limerence, whether you have borderline or not, or whether your limerent object has borderline or not. We need to work on ourselves instead of using this other person to regulate. If you want my help in one-on-one coaching, please send me a message. And for now, I want to thank you so much for watching me, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.